Hello, I'm Double Moses, and today, first up, got a lot of new subscribers here, so I want to say welcome and thank you. So I've had a lot of video card issues over the past month, so haven't been able to record, but I finally sorted those out, so I want to start getting videos out more regularly, so thinking once every week or two, should be able to get something out. Got some interesting ideas lined up, so hopefully some of them should be interesting. But today, I want to have a look at this. So down here, this sad looking thing is my slime farm. So I built it really early in the world and kind of got bored of it after building 2 levels. But, I mean, it actually goes alright, but I think it's time to, get rid of it and build something better. Well, that could have ended a lot worse. Anyway. So I've had a bit of a play around in creative mode, and these are the 2 options I've narrowed it down to. They both get up over around 24,000 slime balls per hour. First up, just a quick note on how slimes spawn. So they only spawn in specific chunks in the world. And if you don't know how to find a slime chunk, just Google it. There's heaps of different ways to do it. So in these chunks, they will spawn up to Y39. And they also don't care about light level as well. So if we light up our spawning areas, we can block other hostile mobs from spawning, and that gives us everything we need to create a slime-only farm. First up, we'll have a look at something that's new to 1.14, which is the Wither Rose farm. So this one's really simple. It's row of hoppers, row of soul sand, and then Wither Roses on top. We have an extra layer of blocks just around the edges so that the big slimes have room to spawn. And we use campfires through the middle to light it up, as well as torches around the edge. Nothing too complex about this one. Slimes spawn on the soul sand, they get taken out by the Wither Roses, and because of the way items sink into soul sand, the hoppers underneath can pick up all the drops. Same reason why we use the campfires, because they're not a full block. Any items that fall on the campfires can be sucked up by a hopper beneath as well. Now this is a pretty good option, but I decided against it for a few reasons. The main one is that I really hate digging. Now a single chunk version of this is gonna get around 8,000 or 9,000 an hour, and for the rates I was looking for, I had to go for at least 3 chunks, which I really didn't want to dig that much. There is also the option of stacking it up, but this 9-layer single chunk version only gets around 19,000 an hour, so you're using 3 times the materials and 3 times the hopper lag for worse results, so that's a no from me. The other reason is I just don't feel like building a Wither Rose farm. They're pretty easy to do now, but I don't have a good way to get skulls. So I'm going to go with the option where it's a lot easier to gather materials and I only need a single chunk to get good results. That brings us to this one here. So it's an updated version of the old classic. We've got multiple spawning layers with golems on each side. What happens is the slimes spawn in, they see the golems, and they hate the golems. So they try to get to them to attack them, but they just end up falling off the ledge into the killing chamber. Of course, the best example of this style is Mango's, but I think he made that in 1.11, so what we're going to do is we'll have a look at it, see what we can do to take advantage of some 1.14 features. Alright, I've built it up in my world. I did record the build, but then it turned into a tutorial, so now I've put that at the end. First thing you're going to want to do with any slime farm design is dig out the entire chunk and at least 8 blocks to each side. I've gone with 16 just because it might help a little bit. But yeah, definitely at least 8, and you for sure want to dig out any blocks above the farm as well. Leaving blocks above it will hit your rates pretty severely. Now the most obvious change is that we've gotten rid of the magma blocks and replaced it with campfires. Mainly, I just don't like dealing with hopper minecarts with entities disappearing and they jump track or just randomly stop, so using the campfires means that we can use hoppers for the collection, and that just gets rid of one annoyance and one less thing to go wrong. We've got the soul sand here as well, just because we don't want to lose any spawnable blocks, but we want to be able to pick up any slime balls that get knocked back as well. Another change is I've moved the golem cages back 1 further away from the spawning platform. In 1.14, the golems can actually attack the slimes through the wooden fences, and what was happening was the small slimes were actually dying before they got down to the kill chamber, and some of their drops were ending up on the edge of the spawning platform. And by moving the cages back one, that doesn't happen anymore. Now we'll head up to the top. Everything on the way up's pretty standard. We have 11 spawning platforms, all lit up to light level 8 or above so that we don't get anything but slime spawning. And we have a new pair of golems every second level. The rest of the changes are up here at the top. Now the first one is actually something I'm not 100% sure on, but I have a suspicion that pillager patrols can spawn at light level 8 or below, because I came back from one of my tests and a golem was dead and there was a pillager banner in my collection. So to combat that, just to be sure, I've upped the light level on this platform just so that everything is at 9 or above. And we only need to do that on the top layer because pillager patrols can only spawn on the top block. Next up, we're going to trick the spawning algorithm into giving us a bit of a hand, and we do that by placing a single layer of string here above the campfires at the same height as the top spawning layer. What that does is it tells the game how high it can make spawning attempts in this area. So when it picks a spot to try and make a spawn attempt, it's going to look to the highest block in the column, then it randomly picks a height from the bottom of the world up to the top of the highest block, which in this case, because we don't have anything above us, is the string. And then once it's picked a height, it's going to start looking around at that Y level for places to try and spawn mobs. And if the height it picks is one of our 11 spawning layers, that spawning attempt that started outside can end up spawning mobs inside of our farm. The overhanging roof, which extends out 8 blocks into the next chunk, is there for the same reason. So without it, any spawning attempts in this red area wouldn't go any higher than the bedrock level down there. So by having it, we're taking advantage of a lot more spawning attempts. Having the roof and the string adds in around 2,000 to 3,000 more slime balls per hour. And just make sure you dig out everything underneath the roof. If the spawning algorithm finds a solid block like stone, instead of looking around for places to spawn, it's just going to give up on the attempt. That's why on any mob farm, we always make sure to use any non-solid blocks like glass or stairs at foot height, so that we're not losing out on any of those extra pack spawns. The other thing you're going to want to do to keep the spawning algorithm happy is dig out all the blocks above the farm. If you leave the surface intact, the game's going to see everything from the top of the farm up to the surface as potential spawning spots, making it way less likely to pick the 11 levels in the farm when it does try to spawn a mob in. And that'll cut your rates pretty heavily. And now the last thing I want to do to finish off the farm is deal with the drops. Now because a hopper line can only handle 9,000 items an hour, I've split the output into 4 sections, so 2 on each side of the farm. And I'm going to feed each corner into a dropper and then spit it into a water stream and collect everything in that cave over there. So to turn this dropper into a clock, just going to put a comparator, solid block, and then a rail on top, and just stick an observer like that. So that observer will spit out whenever that lights up. And then to turn this into a clock, we just go redstone dot, block, repeater, and then feed a redstone into the side of the comparator. And so that'll just keep cycling around and spit out slime balls whenever there's anything in there. Now I'm just going to repeat that on all the other outputs, then feed the water streams into some sort of collection system. Then once I'm done with that, I really don't want this world to look like a bunch of boring creative mode farms, so I've got a bit of a design in mind, going to build that up, and hopefully it looks good. Alright, so I'm no builder, but I'm actually pretty happy with how this turned out. Going for sort of a futuristic industrial look. So next up, well, later on, I want to get in a few more decorative buildings, figure out where this slime pipe's going to end up, as well as put in another slime farm, probably on this slime chunk. So putting in a second slime farm will pretty much double your rates. You'll get around 50,000 an hour. A third one, you're going to start hitting problems with the mob cap, so around low 60,000, so you start not really worth it. A fourth, I didn't test that out, but I can't imagine it would be worth it at all. So I stick to 2, 3 at the absolute most if you really need it. So the last thing we need to do is set our AFK spot. So I've made it a bit hard for myself by setting it so close to the ground, but eventually I want to pack all the slime balls into shulker boxes and have them sent up here so I never need to go downstairs. Now with Mini HUD, I'm going to show the despawn sphere, which is a sphere 128 blocks around the player. So as you can see, I've gone through and lit up every single cave and every single block on the surface so that no hostile mobs is going to spawn around us, and we'll only get mobs spawning inside the farm. Now when you're picking your AFK spot, you just need to keep 2 things in mind. So the entire farm needs to be within that 128 block sphere of you, as well as further than 24 blocks away from the player, as nothing spawns if it's too close. Oh dear, bad at flying. Huh. So this is a pretty good spot. So I'm 16 blocks away from the edge of the slime chunk, and the player position is Y126. So if we pull up the Mini HUD despawn sphere, and we'll just drop down here, we can see that the farm is just within that 128 block range of the player, and it limits the amount of cave lighting that we need to do. And definitely don't set your AFK spot directly above the farm. That's going to reduce your rates. That's everything done. Of course, there's a well download and a Lightmatica schematic in the description. And if you want to use the schematic, which really is the easiest way to build anything, just stand in the northwest corner of your slime chunk, just on the bedrock layer when you load it up. And that should align the farm perfectly with your slime chunk. And now for the tutorial. On screen you can see the materials that I used to build up the farm. Just keep in mind you'll need enough iron blocks and pumpkins to build up 12 iron golems. Now we're going to be starting with the item collection system. So because a hopper line can only handle 9,000 items an hour, we're going to be splitting the output into 4 groups, so each corner will handle its own items. So to start, find one of the corners of your slime chunk and move across by 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then from here, head outside the slime chunk by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Place a temporary block there. Then feed in a line of 6 hoppers. The last 2 hoppers should be inside your slime chunk. Now on the side of each one of these hoppers, go out by 4. On the outside edge, you should just be crossing the chunk border by 1. And on the inside edge, the last hopper should line up with the center of the slime chunk. Do that for every hopper in the line, and then you repeat that process in each of the 4 corners. And then once you've done that, on the inside 2 layers of hoppers, cover them with soul sand, and then fill the space in between them with regular spawnable blocks. That's the first spawning platform done. So you should have 2 rows of soul sand, chunk border, then 4 hoppers on both sides. And on the edges here, your spawning platform should go 1 past the chunk border, which will just give large slimes enough room to spawn once we put the walls in. Next, we're going to need to light it up so that only slimes spawn. Just bring up the light map with Mini HUD. So find the middle of the edge of the chunk. Then on either side of the middle line, just go back 4 blocks and put a torch. Same on this side. And then place a torch on any of the 4 middle blocks. The rest of these spots will be lit up by the campfires once we put them in, but just for now, put down some temporary torches so that the mobs don't spawn while we're building. Now it's golem time. So go to the last row of hoppers and in the middle 4 blocks, place 2 rows of fences. Then you go around the back, grab your trapdoors and place 2 bottom trapdoors against the second row there. Then put your fences in like that. And place your golem in. Alright, if you put him over the trapdoor, he should just fall. Ooh, scary. He should just fall straight in. Nudge him towards the center. Then start building up the back. Then around the front, put a third row there. Now leave a gap on the fourth row and then build another row there. So that there's enough of a gap for the slimes to see the golem's head. Next, build up the golem cage on the other side and start building the walls up as you go. Almost forgot. So behind each golem cage, stick a hopper feeding into there and there as well. Then stick a fence post on top. Just a few items can sometimes slip through there and otherwise they'll drop out. Now it's time to build the second spawning platform. So go to the edge of the soul sand and we need 2.5 blocks for the big slimes to spawn. So leave 1, 2 full blocks and then against the third block, place a top slab and just keep going across until you reach the other soul sand. So it should be 16 across and then extend that till it reaches the other end. To light up this level, go to one of the corners, so 5 blocks across, and then 3 blocks in, so 1, 2, 3, place a torch there, then do the same on that, 5 and 3. Do that on every other corner. And finally, place another torch in one of the 4 center blocks in the chunk. And that'll keep the whole platform lit up. Next step is to build another platform identical to this one, so same thing, 1, 2, 3, build up that platform, and then we'll have to put in another pair of golems. Now we've got everything built up to the third level, we'll put in our next golem. So we do come over here, place 2 fences there, and then against them put 2 bottom trapdoors, and then build up the cage. Then we can put our golem in here. And then once again, we build up the golem cage exactly the same as we did on the lower level. Just remember to make sure that you leave the 1 high eye gap so that the slimes can see him. Now for the really fun part. So once we put in the other iron golem, we're going to need to build a lot more spawn layers. So we've currently got 3 and we're going to need 11. So every 3 blocks, we're going to need another identical spawning platform. And every 2 spawning platforms we make, we're going to need another pair of iron golems. Alright, so stop when you get to this point. So I'm currently at Y37 with the top layer of blocks being Y36. First up, we're going to light it up. So line yourself up with the glass blocks next to the golem cage and go back 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Put a torch in each place. And then once you've got those 4 in, just in any of the middle 4 blocks. And then grab yourself a light level 15 block, so lantern, sea lantern or campfire. Place 1 there. Then 2 down the middle, which is here. And then 1 on the end. And do that on the other side. And that should be, yeah. Next up, we'll do the things that improve the spawn rate. So go to the area over the hoppers, and at the same level as the top spawning platform, fill out that entire layer with string. Next, we'll be doing the pack spawning roof. So this can be any non-spawnable blocks, so glass or bottom slabs or anything like that. So to the side, go out by 6 blocks. Then at the end, the same end of the golem cages, go out by 3. That should take you 8 blocks into the neighboring sub-chunks. Square this off. Do this for each corner, and then fill in the entire roof area. For your final golems, place in top trapdoors so that they are level with the top of the spawning platform. Surround that off with fences. And then once you've done that, you can put in your golem. Almost done, so all we need to do now is put in the final walls. So grab a wall or a fence block, and along the edge of the spawning platform, place these walls or fences, and then for the rest of the wall, finish it off with a 2-high layer of glass blocks. All that's left to do now is place the campfires and then we're done. So just go down here and just place a campfire on every exposed hopper. That's everything done. All you need to do now is hook up the outputs to some sort of storage system, pick your AFK spot, and then light up the surface and all the caves within 128 blocks of that spot. Okay, video done. Thanks very much for everyone watching and subbing and all that. I should have a few more videos coming out over the next few weeks, so just keep an eye out for that. I think that's it. 6 AM, so I'm going to go to bed. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good one. See you later.